Hello and welcome to Recordholics Academy. My name is Gary, and if you're serious about making music and making it work, this is the place for you. In today's video, we're going to talk about singles versus albums, and sort of what should you do, what should we be doing, or both. And I think the basic answer is definitely both. I think that in this sort of modern era, I think I've noticed that we went through a phase where people were just going like singles. You got to be putting out singles. That's the new way, singles, because we've noticed that attention spans are shorter and things like that because of social media and the information age, et cetera. But I think we've lost sight of creating art, like real art out of albums. Tend to be a piece of art that you create, something that you really put your time into and crafted this thing. And there's a lot more to it than we just banged out a song and put it out. Now, I think, again, the default answer for me is definitely both. We should be doing both. You should be making singles and you should be making albums. I think the album is a bit of a lost art that needs to resurface. I like the idea of artists making an album and then releasing them as singles, and then like a waterfall release, they call it, of an album where it's mostly released as singles over time, so that then you're releasing music regularly and then the album comes out, but it's all these songs that you've already put out plus a few more. I kind of like that, but I'm also a little uncertain about how much I like that. Because I feel like we were onto something as a society in music when we were creating albums and they were made and put on a record. I mean, I am a absolute lover of vinyl records. I started a group called Recordholics Anonymous because I'm addicted to collecting records. Even though record is just a recording, it's been commonly known as record, meaning vinyl record. But anyway, when we think back to how a band or an artist made an album for a record, for a vinyl record, there was something, about that. It's like an era, right? This artist takes time out and they go in and they create this album and then they release it. And there's limitations on what they can do to make this album. Because remember, creativity is born out of limitations. More on that in another video. So, if you look at the limitations of a vinyl record, it only fits a certain amount of music on it. And I feel like people think that an album has to be like 20 songs or something. Like, it doesn't. 10 songs, max. In my opinion, an album is no longer than 10 songs. A proper, good album, maybe if they're shorter songs, maybe like 12. But standard songs, 3 to 4 minute songs, absolutely no more than 10. In my opinion, no more than 10. So, granted, now, as independent musicians, we have jobs, we have things we have to do, so you can't just lock in for a month and create an album. But maybe you could. Maybe you could find a way where you spend all this time building up to, I'm taking a month off, I'm taking 2 weeks off, taking my paid vacation of 2 weeks off here, and then a month later, I'm taking another 2 weeks unpaid or whatever there. And we're going to finish the album, whatever. But you're working on building it in your spare time, let's say for 6 months leading up to that. Writing the songs, coming up with the ideas, and so on. And all of this is stuff that you can document leading up to making the album, so you're not missing out on putting stuff out there. But like, just think about that. That's like an era in your career. You know, you stamp it with an album, and you can see how it evolves, or you know, that type of thing. But I feel like there's something like when you look at an independent artist and they've just got a few or a bunch of singles out, you feel like, okay, well, they haven't reached this yet. They haven't made an album. I feel like an album is like, okay, we made an album. It's a body of work. A body of work is much more like garnering of respect, I feel like, than a bunch of singles. Now, that's not to say that you can't build anything by just doing singles, and that's not to say that it's not a good idea to do the waterfall release. I think that's a great plan, I guess, to put it out. But I feel like what that does, and this is my gripe with it, really. My main gripe with the waterfall release is that you start making these songs as if they're singles. You're not putting together a body of work. I mean, maybe you are. I'm not saying nobody is, but I feel like it's a missing element in a lot of people's careers, is an actual album. Like, how do I make an album, a real album that means something? Yes, albums have singles on them. That's always been that way. There's always one or two songs that are, you're like, okay, these are the songs that we're going to really push. And you can release them as singles before the album. That's kind of how it's always been, to an extent, in terms of the eras of albums, you know, of bands and artists making albums. Obviously, there's been an evolution constantly with technology and culture evolving, sure. But just because we've evolved, just because things have evolved, just because things have changed, doesn't mean that we can't learn something from the older ways and things like that. And in my opinion, if you're going to make an album, you should really pretend that you're going to make a record, a vinyl record. I also encourage you to actually end up at some point making that album pressed onto a vinyl record. But we'll get back to that another time. The thing about that is, if you're going into the studio, I'm gonna put this on a vinyl record. We're gonna make this for vinyl. Even if you never press it on vinyl, you're gonna make the decisions that create and craft a good body of work, a good album, and mainly because you're thinking about the process of listening to a vinyl record. And if you've never listened to a vinyl record, I encourage you to find a way to experience that, to get your hands on an artist that you like, their album. Actually, it really would be better if you got an old record, but for these purposes. But I'll take any of that. Get a record, put it on, put the needle down, and experience that connection with music, where you're listening intently and you're involved in listening to the music more than just passively. So experience that, and then think about that when you're getting ready to make your album, when you're going to start the process of getting towards making your album, and thinking, okay, well, now I need to craft my songs this way, and how you're going to arrange the songs from beginning to end, And not just from beginning to end, but from beginning to end on one side and then beginning to end on another side. That is huge, because that middle, you have to think, okay, well, if somebody's listening to the record and they put the needle down and they listen to basically like 4 or 5 songs, when they get to the end of that, it's going to stop and nothing is playing. Did I make something that makes them want to move the needle, pick up the record, flip it over, put it down and put the needle back? Or did I make something that makes them pull the needle, pick it up and put it away? Are we getting them to the other side? That's a huge thing. And then the other side is like a new beginning, literally. It's the new beginning of the other side. So this whole like limitation of what can fit on an album drove artists to make some of the greatest albums of all time. Check. So the camera overheated again. I'm gonna have to figure something out for this. I may end up having to buy another one of these cameras so that I can just swap them when this happens. Because if I'm sitting here, I end up sitting here doing, 2-3 videos at a time. I'm shooting for an hour or more. The camera's on the whole time, and of course also in between it's on and whatnot. So I might need to do something there. But so the point of this is that there's something to that, and making the album, I think making an album solidifies you as a real artist. And I think that's something that people aren't talking about. They're coming up with ways like, oh, don't make an album, make singles and then put it together as an album and all this other stuff. But like, making a real album solidifies you as an artist. You could try to change my mind on that, but I don't think that you could. Because, I mean, what's every single major artist who's ever had a successful career as an artist, what have they done? They've released albums. And again, yes, the top artists have it a little easier in that respect, because that's all they do is make music, and they just spend a month and go make an album, or a couple of months or whatever. Which is not always the case. Like, in some cases, it takes up to a year to do an album, even as a major, big artist. So, take the time. Yes, it takes a long time to make an album and do it right. Yes, I've worked on albums that it takes 2 years to make. I've worked on albums that it takes a year to make. I've worked on albums that were 6 months. It all depends. And that's okay if it takes a long time. You could argue that you're supposed to be releasing music X amount of times per whatever. Everybody's all about the like every 6 weeks release a single, every 8 weeks release a single. Like, really? Yes, okay, if you want to please the gods at Spotify in some way to grow, release a single every 6 weeks or whatever. But again, you're chasing some kind of thing. You're chasing something that's intangible, that's not... I don't know what's the word I'm looking for here, but like, okay, if you can release a song or something every 6 to 8 weeks or whatever, fine. It could be something you can benefit from, and maybe you could use an album and release each song that way with the waterfall technique. But like, I feel like, again, we're focusing on the wrong things. We're not focusing on building our core audience. We're not focusing on building our fan base, on connecting with people and bringing them into our world. We're not focusing on that. We're focusing on how can I get the most streams and the most exposure and the most love from Spotify. Spotify is owned by major labels in the major majority. They control Spotify. Like, you're not going to win the Spotify game. Use Spotify as a platform for you to serve your music to the world. And then you go out and you find the people to connect with who are going to go to Spotify and find you there. Wouldn't it be great, to have Spotify spread your music around? Yeah, that would be great. Sure. And, it's by not playing that game of chasing the every 6 weeks, every 8 weeks, that doesn't mean that you're not going to get seen by people from Spotify. So you need to kind of think a little bit more broadly about your career. And again, instead of chasing these things, like, I heard somebody on Instagram say, like, you got to release a single every 6 weeks or every 8 weeks. You got to release a single on Spotify every 6 to 8 weeks. We're just chasing the bottom. It's a race to the bottom of pure garbage art. That's not good. That's not good at all. So whether you think that's going to help you or not, and it may very well help you, I don't know. But it's absolutely the wrong approach. You're not serving your creative art well by doing that. If you're not going to spend the time to craft an album while you're doing that, then that's not worth doing, because you should be then making an album where you can have a few singles that you release and go from there. Like, you need to be a proper artist if you want to be a proper artist. Okay? Like, I don't know. Shoot me. Call me an a-hole. Whatever it is. I'm tired of this pumping out singles BS and not crafting good music. If you want to be a real artist, you want to make music for real and develop connections with people who love you and will spend money on you and support you and fight for you and promote you to everybody they know, you have to be a proper artist and make an album and then make another album. So find a way to do that. I'm not saying this is going to be easy. I will never say that. It's not. I guarantee you it's not going to be easy. It's going to be difficult. It's going to be hard. You're going to hate it at some times, and you're going to love it at other times. It's going to cost you money. It's going to cost you time. It's going to suck. But it's going to be valuable and rewarding. It's going to help you. It's going to legitimize you. Making a proper album, not just a bunch of songs you slap together and this is my album. That's not what an album is. Okay? That's not what an album is. And we need to rethink this. It's not what an album is. It's not just a collection of songs. It's something it's a body of work that you crafted. I'm kind of tired of this BS. I can't stand it when it's like, I'm doing an album. How many songs are on it? 20? Get out. 20 songs on an album? Are you crazy? Come on. Okay, I guess it's a double album. But like, that's just throwing a bunch of stuff together. That's not crafting an album. It's just not. It's just not. In my opinion, it's just not. Yeah, you could give me a list of examples. Go ahead. Give me get crazy, get angry, give me a list of examples in the comments of all these albums that have 20 some odd songs and how great they are, blah, 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 yada, yada, yada. I don't care. A solid, real album is 10 songs. 12, maybe. It can be 8. Hey, there's an album that I love called Hot Buttered Soul by Isaac Hayes. It has 3 songs on it. One of them is like, I don't know, 3 songs, maybe 4. 2 on each side. I think one side is just one song, the whole side. But like, it's killer. It's like a vibe. So like, okay, maybe I'm an a-hole and you know, an album can be whatever it is. But the problem a lot of us are having in this industry, especially independents, is that there's too many options, too many possibilities. We can't sit and go, okay, this is what I have to do, and then have parameters set around it. The best thing you can do for your career is to set parameters around the things that you create. Set limits. Okay, I'm going to shoot this video and post it, and I have to be done in an hour. Whatever it is, it's done, I post it, done. Or, okay, we're going to make this album. It can't be more than 10 songs, and it has to fit on a vinyl record. Okay, cool. Let's do that. Okay, you know, we're going to put out an EP, and it's going to be, you could also put out EPs. And so like, I think rather than the waterfall thing, this is a better idea. Here we go. And a friend of mine did this years ago, and he made 4 EPs, and they were all a series. 3 songs each. They were all like a series. 1, 2, 3, and 4. So instead of doing, okay, I'm doing a 10-song album. Or, okay, I'm going to do, this album and then do all of them as waterfall singles and then the album. Instead of that, how about this? You're going to do 4 EPs. And they're all going to have the same name. Volume 1, 2, 3, and 4. Or they're all going to have different names, but all be around the same concept. Be it, let's say like 4 Seasons or, the 4 Amigos, each one is a different name, but they're all part of the whole Amigos. So they're 3, 4 songs each, and they have like a thing that happens to them. But any one of them could be a great song, could have a great song on it that's like a single. So there should be like 1 single on each one of those EPs. And then you release them, over like stages. Better than the waterfall because they're artfully crafted bodies of work, micro bodies of work that become one larger whole body of work that then can be pressed on a vinyl, on a 2-disc vinyl. A, B, C, and D. That's probably one of the best things you can do. And it doesn't have to be what you do all the time. Okay, this whole thing doesn't have to be one thing or the other as well. Because plenty of, artists who have albums and whatever, like they put out singles too that were not on albums. And EPs, and then also albums. There's flexibility here. Do them all. And kind of find a way that works for you, but you should really focus in on making an album. Or making EPs that lead up to an album. Crafting a body of work is really what it is. Like, singles can be amazing and they can help your career a lot. And I'm not against the idea of putting out multiple singles, several singles. I just think that people are way too focused on doing just singles, or releasing an album in form of singles. You know, like I think we're missing something. We're missing the art aspect. The whole reason we got into making music is to create the art. We can't forget about that. And like just doing one song is not doing that justice. And then just doing one-off songs. And what happens is you end up doing like different types of songs instead of like having a cohesive sound, you know? I could go on about this forever, and I don't even know if I'm going to keep this whole video or what. The camera overheated twice already when I'm recording tonight. I don't know if it was both in this video, one in the other, or one, I don't know. But I'm running out of battery. It's getting dark. It got dark real fast. So, needless to say, we can talk about this again in another video. We will. But consider the idea that you should do a mix of all these things in whatever way that works for you. If you have to do a few singles in the beginning, if you're just starting making music, yes, make singles and just put them out and get yourself going. Start getting your music in front of people so they can hear what you're doing. Put the first song out, just get it done. Then put the second song out, you know, maybe a couple of months later. Do that for a while, but start gearing yourself up towards what am I going to craft for an album? How am I going to make an album? And start collecting songs for that album. If you make an album of 10 songs, my camera overheated again, and I'm just going to finish this off with my phone. So just finish that final thought. If you're going to make a 10-song album, you should write 20 and then pick 10. Go through the process, start recording all 20, and then, well, maybe not all 20, but you write 20, you pick out 15, you start recording those, and then you chip away at it down to 10, the final 10. The good thing about that is that you have another 10 songs to work with later. They could be singles, they could be on an EP later, they could be on the next album, or whatever. Or maybe a few years later you go, oh, wow, I remember that song, you know, let's go check that out again. So there's nothing bad about writing a lot of songs. In fact, you should always be writing songs all the time. So yes, make an album, make singles in the beginning, get yourself going, start building eyes and ears on you, start building your fan base, put all those things in motion, and then start working on an album, because an album is going to boost you to a place where, look, I made an album. That's my album. And now I'm working on something else. Now I'm doing another single, not whatever. Okay? So maybe I'm an a-hole. Like I said, maybe I'm an a-hole. But I'm not wrong about this. Making an album has a certain thing to it, where when you see an artist that has never made an album but they've got all these songs out, how seriously do you take them as an artist? So there's that element. And yeah, okay, you could say, well, this is all about trying to get noticed. Well, there's so many other ways to get noticed and seen by people and build your fan base, with posting videos and stuff on social media and on YouTube and vlogs, and, you know, performing and getting people on your email list. And there's so many other ways that, like, the idea that you're going to shift the entire essence of your creative part to pumping out singles just so you can please the Spotify algorithm to try and get some streams is insane to me. You're losing focus on what's really, really important for your career. So, like, you know, all the stuff you can be doing cover songs, you know, like performing, doing videos, posting, vlogs, all those things you should be doing are like really, 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 really important. Way more important than putting out singles all the time. Yes, put out a few singles. Make sure you have music for people to listen to. And then start working on an EP or start working on an album. Like, put some legitimacy to the art that you're creating. If you want to be taken seriously as a real maker of music, like, you have to do that. I'm sorry. I'm not wrong. You could come up with all kinds of ways where you think I'm wrong, like even on this, but I won't change my opinion on this. You have to make an album, and make it as an album, not as a bunch of singles. Make an album, okay? That's going to do it for this one, okay? Please, if you want to argue with me, feel free in the comments. I welcome it. I don't really care, if you're angry about it, or if you think I'm an a-hole or wrong, fine. Go ahead. Tell me, please. I'd be happy to listen to what you have to say. I don't think I'm going to change my mind on this. Like, you need, like, this is the real deal. You want to be the real deal, you got to act like you're the real deal. You want to build something that's real, taken seriously as an artist, as a musician, as a creator, as a writer. You have to create that body of work. It's simple. But that's going to do it for today. My name is Gary, and I'm here to remind you to keep creating and keep pushing. And I'll see you in the next one. Thank you.